you fine gentlemen, and I will fiddle with it as best I can. I see things, maybe. I see loading video.
See dead people.
Very rarely. Oh, I see people. Alright, hello and welcome everyone to Gamestate episode 34, slightly delayed. We were unable to provide a show for you last week, for which we apologize due to multiple illnesses from cast members. But today we are going to do a double show. It is Monday, April the 1st, meaning that you cannot browse the internet in peace. And I am your host, Adam, a winner as you, Ragsdale. And with me, as always, are Glenn Jones, event coverage coordinator for Star City Games.
I am, in fact, Glenn Jones. That is not a joke, prank, or troll of any kind.
Steven Flavel, poker pro and magic enthusiast.
Everybody.
Well played. And Cedric Phillips, professional magician.
It feels good to be home for 2 days so that I can fly again. But here I am.
Also, to be a gangsta.
Accurate.
So today we're going to be talking about GP Pittsburgh, the 2013 MOCS, and the Star Cities Kansas City and Orlando Open. That is a horrific echo. Can whoever's doing that stop doing that? Is that a thing that we control?
I don't hear an echo.
Oh.
Maybe you're doing that.
Can you mute your microphone?
Yeah, I blame you.
Hey, it's gone.
Oh, wow.
What were the odds? Anyway, our first topic for the day is going to be GP Pittsburgh. We are going to be doing a goodbye to Gatecrash Limited, as my understanding is that this was the last large Gatecrash Limited event before we enter the Dragon's Maze and find out whatever exciting things await us there. So we will go to Cedric. Well, I guess I should say what actually happened. GP Pittsburgh was won by Brock Parker with the might of the Orzhov Syndicate in Limited. I will put the coverage link into the chat for those who no longer remember what actually happened. Brock Parker, known from approximately 1 million years ago when he also won Magic the Gathering events in teams, I believe.
That's accurate.
But yeah, let's move to a goodbye to Gatecrash Limited. Cedric, you may go first because I love you the most.
Oh, thank you so much. Congrats to Brock Parker. I know I was when I was in Vegas earlier this month. I stayed with Huey and Brock and Efro at Efro's house, and when I was there, I got the tour from Huey, and I said, "Where's Brock?" And he's in his room playing Gatecrash. And so I walked in there and I just said, "Do you hate yourself?" And he just said, "Yeah, kinda." So he was just doing some 8-4s, losing a bunch, but had nothing better to do, and I was actually surprised to see him even be at this tournament, because he doesn't really travel for Magic anymore, and hey, he won, so maybe he knows something we all don't, and what that something is that this format is horrible, so I'm glad to see it go, and congrats, Brock, for winning the tournament. I hope all your testing paid off, because you got a trophy and you're qualified for the Pro Tour, and no more of any of this, thank God, because I really want this format to be good, and I hate it admitting when I'm wrong, but I'm about to do that. This format is terrible. So good riddance.
Alright, tough but fair. Succinct. Like it. Glenn, do you have any final words for the Gatecrash Limited format?
Well, I decided to give it a farewell by actually playing it one more time this week, breaking my... I think I'm over a month without touching the cards, basically. And yeah, it went out just as it went in, with my terrible decks winning when my opponents got screwed, and my awesome decks losing when I got screwed. So yeah, pretty happy that we don't have to do that anymore.
Alright, solid. Steven, bring back the staticky noise.
Is there staticky noise now?
Yes.
Sick. I feel bad for Gatecrash. It's like the retarded mutt or something, in that it does actually have like mental difficulties and everything, but eventually 1 or 2 people in the world are gonna find it cute. So
Don't know who they are.
yeah, but somebody's gonna get there, right? It's not
If they
going to
didn't
be
make you
me.
play the matches, I'd like it a lot more.
You think so? I think you could. Yeah, I think there's something to that. You could enjoy just like picking the card from your guild and seeing what your deck looks like.
It said I read a Forsyth thing. It might have been from his Twitter or in an article or something that said that new players liked Gatecrash because they felt like they knew what they were supposed to be doing. Like it was very straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually true or not, but I saw those words. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it's
it's
just
just
not for you.
or anyone
No,
who
it's
is the
for them.
target audience.
The target audience is new players, man. You're
Yeah.
already playing. You'll play no matter what they produce.
That's accurate, which is a problem in and of itself, and I
Yeah.
think they know that. So they'll just print whatever. Yeah, I mean, I really want to like this format since it looked like it was like aggressive and fun, and yeah, kind of like Glenn said, when you play the game, playing the games are absolutely miserable. It's awful. I kind of like drafting the format like a little bit, but playing the games was couldn't stand it.
All right. Tough but fair. I have nothing further on Gatecrash Limited, so if anyone does, speak now or forever hold your peace. No. All right, very good. Let us move on to the 2013 Magic Online Championship Series. The probably the most prestigious. I would say that was more prestigious than the Grand Prix, which happened last weekend, the weekend before last, and it was a large event. It was played in Standard, Gatecrash Limited, and Cube, and it was won by one Dmitry Budakov, or just Budakov to those of you who know him from his Magic Online exploits. I will put the link in chat. He won playing Junk Reanimator in Standard. What a huge surprise. And various things in Limited and Cube. I want to talk to you guys just about sort of the event as a whole, um, what what your thoughts were on the format and what have you. Did anybody get to watch it before we go any further? Um,
Briefly,
Yeah.
Watch
very.
bits and pieces.
It was difficult to watch, to say the least.
yeah, that was my impression as well. I was actually out of the country during the event, so I didn't see any of it live, but I watched some of it after I got back. It was entirely on the new client, which makes it difficult for those who are used to the old client, and presumably also made it difficult for the people who are playing in the tournament. Which I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
That probably shouldn't be a thing, right? If it's hard for them to actually play the tournament, especially when they all qualified on a different client, might be a little awkward.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the written coverage had things like they were playing this game, and it's difficult for me because I have trouble sort of parsing written coverage at the best of times, trying to visualize the board state. But they'd be like, this is happening, and this is happening, and then they'd have a line like, and then he clicked through his attack step twice, and like, that's sort of an awkward thing to have happen in your, like, this is a big deal high-level Magic event. I don't know. Like,
Could be bad. Could be bad. Here's the problem. Um, when have we ever seen like a game or like a company or something use an unfinished product to promote like a big tournament and something they want people to use moving forward? I tried to think about that for a little while. I tweeted that and looking for responses. I didn't get very many of them. And I guess like my thing is like they have this beta that's clearly unfinished and needs a lot of work according to many, and they decided to have like to highlight like this new product that they're working on, but is clearly not finished, including it's like a lot of work. And they're like, "Hey, look at this!" And it's like, is anyone like going, "Oh man, that's awesome"? I don't think that's actually like the response people had. I think the response people had is like, why is this like this? Why is this all screwed up? Why are people clicking through a attack step? Why are you using this when it's not ready to highlight a tournament at like not only for like everyone at home but like at PAX as well? It just doesn't really make sense. It seems like very counterintuitive. So I mean, then you start seeing stuff like you said, the written coverage, people clicking through attacks and everything, and then it's just like this is kind of a disaster. And by having coverage on this, they kind of want to make this tournament important, but then we didn't get any coverage for any video coverage for Pittsburgh. So is this tournament more important than Pittsburgh? I don't know. I mean, I guess you guys can speak on that and say if you think it was or wasn't.
mm, I my like gut feeling would be that it was supposed to be like more prestigious than a Grand Prix. I don't know how everyone else feels, Glenn.
Yeah, I think that that was the idea as well, but at the end of the day, it was like a mixed format tournament that included, cube, 16 players, and not Magic the Gathering because it was on not just Moto but on the beta, which are actually both different games from actual paper Magic. But the beta thing seemed like really ill thought out. I think that the biggest takeaway most people who watched the coverage got was to not be excited about the beta, which is like the exact opposite of what you would hope that maneuver to get you. Like I have not heard anyone say that they liked watching it, that they thought it brought something, that after watching it they were happier about the beta than they were going in. Like, and granted, part of that's just the way the internet works. People complain way more than they say good things, but like actual zero is a little rare, and I feel like the overwhelming reaction was just to get more negative about the beta, and it's something that like we all know needs work, but we didn't need it like thrown in our faces that it's affecting our lives with how much work it needs, which the coverage basically did. So I think it was a misstep to trot it out there when it just clearly wasn't ready. It wasn't even like even the aspects of it that are like basic were not there. Like, I mean, were they like timed? I think I heard that.
Yeah,
That's a,
the rounds were timed.
that's just awful. The names like weren't readable. Like that's just also completely ridiculous. Like, and that's an easy thing to fix in the overlay itself too. Like the way that they're streaming it, you can just like put things over the overlay in order to actually get names and like where they're from or what their real name is. Like you had to have like a key next to you and zooming in on your screen in order to actually see what's going on in the game of Magic, which is the exact opposite of how you want any broadcast game of Magic to look. You want it to be as digestible as possible. Like that's what all of our live coverage just struggles, is to make Magic content as digestible and easy to just peruse as possible. And this beta like just makes it much harder.
That's tough but fair. Steven, do you have any thoughts?
First off, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's fine.
All right, I switched microphones, so hopefully there's no echo anymore. Um, yeah, this was sort of saddening for me because I really liked how they handled the whole big deal at Worlds last year,
Mhm.
when they didn't actually televise the entire tournament or anything, which is sad, but whatever. I feel like it's always sort of been something that you logged on to Moto and watched the games for. And at Worlds, they produced a vastly time delayed little segment showing the final match between Reed and whoever the poor dude who lost to Reed was, who wouldn't remember his name, right? And I thought it went really well. It had a lot of things going on that helped it be watchable despite the client not being the best. Because even the current client is not the best, right? Especially if you are going to watch a match of Magic on it. But they were cutting away from the client to show the players sitting at their computers making their decisions as they were doing it. And they were able to do all of that editing because they were showing it later in the day and just trying to make it watchable. I feel like they didn't really try to make it watchable this time around. And I also feel like they didn't do a very good job of giving people a reason to watch it. So if you're gonna tack it on to a pro tour and show it in between rounds or something, you're gonna have a bunch of coincidental viewers who are watching the pro tour and then they see this thing and it's like, oh, okay, I'll keep watching, sure. And if you're gonna show the matches on Moto, then you have a bunch of people on Moto and they're playing their games and they're like, whoa, there's this tournament going on and I can go watch a game. That's pretty sweet. I might check that out. But my feeling is it isn't a strong enough draw to stand as a standalone tournament right now. So fairly disappointed.
So the feeling seems to be coverage could have been handled a little bit better. Do you guys think it would have been better if it was held on the old client, or do you think there are significant improvements that were needed above and beyond that?
I think that there were just like a lot of things that they needed to do better with this. I mean, obviously, you can just talk about advertising the event, making people care about who's in the event, building emotional attachment, what have you. I mean, there's obviously the cosmetic issues with like using the beta client, which is clearly not ready versus using the old client. I think, as Steven said, we all pretty much have come to terms with the old client being like a piece of garbage, but we're all used to it. So as a result, like that's what the people who stream on. That's what people who play Magic Online on. So it's something that our eyes are all very used to. So as a result, like I think that that's the client that they would want to use instead of like trotting out their new client that's not ready. And then people are more focused on like picking it apart than actually like paying attention to what's going on, which is counterintuitive. And like something that Glenn said as well, it's just like there's like a lot of small things, right, where they're like referring to people as their screen name, and then they'll refer to them as like their real name, and then like back to their screen name, and it's like, well, who is that? What's going on? And then there's like that confusion. Whereas like if you've seen like other esports or like League of Legends, they go like guy's first name, then like they use a screen name and then last name, so like they go like John Herfdurf Smith, and like that's how people can identify with that person or whatever. Whereas like they were just going like John Smith and then Herfdurf and then John Smith, and it's just like you can get kind of confused. So I mean, there's just like a lot of things, like cosmetically, and then just minor things as far as just like casting is concerned, where it just kind of all added up to just not be the greatest viewing experience, I think.
I think that they fell into a trap that's very easy to fall into, and that I myself, like, week in and week out, it happens to me every now and then, which is when you do something that's very similar to what you usually do. Like, obviously, they're just commentating on a Magic tournament, right? Like, in the broad spectrum of things, that's basically, like, the same thing that they usually do. But then you change aspects of it that have ramifications and ripples and, like, makes small things not quite work the same way. You're really not, you have to like think about those things in advance or they will catch you off guard, and they'll just keep doing it all week because you're not prepared to actually fix it. And I think that that's one of those things, like, the naming convention, like realizing they needed to like actually pay attention to how they talked about specific people. Like, that's something you have to think about in advance, or you're never going to be able to ingrain into yourself to do it. You can't just realize it and be like, oh yeah, I did that wrong, and then you'll just start doing it for the rest of the weekend. No, actually, like, you'll still slip up. You got to work 16-hour days when you're doing commentary or whatever, so it's going to come up. And minor things like that, the sizing of the names. When you're sitting there on your computer, like, building the overlays for this, you're not really going to think about how small that name is in, like, a Twitch window or under a terrible resolution until, someone on Twitter is like, hey, I can't read their names. And you're like, oh, I never would have thought that would be a problem. And that's exactly where they're getting caught. Like, I feel like it was a ton of these small errors. Admittedly, a lot of them were caused by use of the beta versus the other one. I agree with Cedric. Like, more people are just used to the older client, so it's just easier for them to absorb the information. But a lot of the same issues still would have occurred, like just how to commentate the tournament, the actual, explaining the structure, explaining the play, like all of these things. And it just mostly made for, something a lot of people didn't seem to be very interested in watching.
You have anything, Steven?
Yeah, I agree with Glenn, definitely. I think that approaching this as though it were like one of the regular tournaments that they stream just backfired big time, because it's just a much different medium and they needed to approach it in much different ways. I hope that in the future we see tournaments held on Magic Online and delivered in a viewable way, but first off, why are you using the Twitch client to have people watch games on Magic Online when you have this like fairly reasonable spectator option on Magic Online? Why don't you use that spectator option? That way people can click through and control the game as they want, etc. And then when you're playing the game on an electronic client, why aren't you keying into all of the new features that you're going to have out of that? Like, why can't we show both players' hands, for example? They have to work out how to do that. Why aren't we mousing over cards and enlarging them so that we know exactly what's going on and stuff like that? I definitely think it's a fairly unexplored field, and the way they approached producing the tournament was like sort of like they felt like it was just going to work because this is what we do with regular tournaments, and just awesome.
Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing to me because I felt like with Pro Tours especially, they'd really sort of come a long way in terms of their coverage, and they've been doing a fairly good job. Which is not to say that there were no areas for improvement, but I think the content that they've been producing around the Pro Tour specifically has been doing reasonably well and been received fairly well. And I didn't feel like this tournament was up to that level when maybe it should be in terms of prestige.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like they really want to make the Magic Online Championship Series like a pretty big deal, especially with like Reed winning it last year. It started to really get pushed into motion, and as Steven said, it was a tournament that they did highlight at Worlds, and then now they didn't really have somewhere it felt like to highlight this tournament. Like PAX East seemed like a good idea, but when you have that coinciding with the GP and people chasing points and trying to get the platinum and gold, then you have two tournaments kind of, you know, that are like being run by the same organization, like competing with each other, which is just like pretty backwards. And so then like after day one, you know, you have like Reed is clearly not gonna be able to win the tournament and repeat, and then like a lot of the other people in the tournament are just like, you know, you don't really know who they are, so you don't really have much of a reason to watch, and you're just like, oh, well, what's going on in Pittsburgh? And it's like, oh, Pittsburgh doesn't even have any coverage; it just has written coverage. Like it's like 98, so like, all right, I guess I don't really know what I'm gonna do this weekend. You know, I just feel like they kind of just dropped the ball, and on both sides of it, really. Having certainly having both tournaments at the same time, whatever, it's just like that part of it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, Pittsburgh was really good at Magic in '98, right? So
Like you just don't have like the GP. You just have the GP like the next weekend or something. Like if you want that the MOCS like thing to be a big deal, and then like you can have like your announcements at PAX East, unveil like the things from Dragon's Maze and just have that be like all the concentration for people at home for the weekend. And instead it's like there's like this GP and then this and there's like the Star City tournaments that we'll go over in a second too. And it's just like there's too much. There's just too much, and they clearly can't cover it all. So
Yeah. I do want to give like Wizards some props. Like they've done a lot of sweet stuff with the mocks and like revamping it and adding stuff to it. Like adding PT slots to the winners, that's awesome. The way they've redone the promos and the prelim system, I like both of those things. They both seem like more interesting, if not just strictly better than the way they were before. So, yeah, I guess in this case it was just a miss on their latest try. It was just a really awkward one because it felt like I don't know. I mean, obviously, maybe it's one of those moments, when you're outside of it and you just see it and you're like, well, this just sounds like a bad idea. But, like, inside the bubble, everything's, very bubbly.
it's very bubbly.
well, I mean, in fairness, everything that's associated with Magic the Gathering Online has worked perfectly up until this point. So there was pretty much no way that they could see this coming. So let's yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the actual Magic that took place. Apart from the visibility, as I said, it was 4 rounds of Gatecrash sealed, and then 3 rounds of Cube, and then 4 rounds of Standard, I think is how it went. There were 3 different formats, and the scoring was using a unique system which distributed different amounts of points for each level of wins. How do you guys feel about that? What did you think of the format? Did you think it was enjoyable? Do you think it was reasonable? Would you like to play all your Pro Tours in that format? Cedric, I bet you're going to love it.
All right, Glenn.
Good read. Glad you can go. Just go.
I don't understand how the tournament actually worked, so that's probably an indictment of the system in and of itself.
I actually feel the same way. I don't know how the tournament worked either. So,
like, I admit that I didn't like research into it or whatever, but someone described it to me, and like over the course of the tournament, I just like every now and then checked in on the standings, and I'm just like, I don't really understand what's happening, just based on this piece of information that's supposed to be the easiest and most digestible way to follow the tournament. So that's probably not good. It's like it's literally a page created for you to like one click check on how everyone's doing, and you can't do that with it if you didn't like apparently do some significant research. And obviously, like I said, I did nothing, but like that's the point. It should be easy. Like you want something like that to be intuitive. When they put up scores for a basketball or a football game, it's one number. If one's bigger than the other, that team's ahead. Like you know what's going on. It's not difficult. Baseball actually has that flaw. Like if you don't know like baseball score, like because they have like strikes and balls and like numbers over the thing and like innings versus and like multiple games over the course of or multiple innings in like other games. So like I've actually seen people get confused by baseball, which is one of the reasons I hate baseball. But like that's basically what was going on with this thing. I would contrast that very specifically, like basketball versus baseball compared to like this versus any other Magic tournament ever.
Well, I heard, and I don't know if this is actually true, but I heard that the reason this particular system was used was because it was a system which was supposed to give a clean cut to top two. Like, they really didn't want to have a tie there, which kind of makes sense, because, like, obviously the top two play off for the big prize, and the prize is weighted very heavily towards the top, so having a tie there would be kind of awkward. But that is, as I said, that is just what I've heard, and it doesn't make it any more palatable for those who are watching at home.
Yeah, see, like, which is it? Is it a show for promotion or is it like a tournament with a lot of integrity? Because they're drafting Cube, but you're showing it on TV, but you want to make sure that like nobody could ever feel screwed out of getting in the top two. Like, you kind of got to pick, like, which is it? It can't be a tournament and a show. Like, it's one or the other at the end of the day.
It's interesting to me that you went to the Cube draft as an example of like a funny format when they were playing even more rounds of Gatecrash sealed.
I mean, like, I'm not like bashing on Cube, but like, it's not like we're not seeing Cube at the Pro Tour. It's not a Grand Prix format. So, on some level, like, this tournament to me is about showing off Magic Online grinders, who are competent competitors who do not get as much press as many. Showing off Magic Online itself because they want to promote this thing that makes them millions of dollars and try and make it make more millions of dollars, and showing off what they can do specifically with it. And at the end of the day, like, whether the guy in second deserved to get second or third or maybe the guy in third deserved to get first is not really that relevant compared to like those factors, but I don't know. It's weird. Obviously, if they had done it and someone had tied in second, like, we'd be on the show mocking that now. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, but
My favorite kind of sword.
I think there's some merit to the point system that they used, and I think like pretty big thing that it does is keeps more players in contention longer through the tournament, which is I think something they were trying to do. I don't know, it could be sort of interesting to see how far you can take that idea of trying to keep people in contention as long as possible using like extra points for winning streaks or extra points for picking up bounties on players, or who knows, you could do all sorts of silly stuff if you wanted.
I just want achievement points in my tournament. Can I get
Yeah.
achievement points when I beat a guy in a hot streak?
I think everybody gets that achievement points like is a really good model for making humans who are very stupid and like to see numbers interested in something. So
to clarify, like, objectively, their system very well might be fine. It might even be better. Like, I have no idea. Like I said, I barely understand it. But like, just as a system for a tournament that's like supposed to be basically an ad, like, you want people to actually understand what's going on in your ad.
Yes, a kill streak bonus. Yeah.
Achievements would be so sweet if they were actually supported in the tournament structure.
Dude, high five 3 other members of the Selesnya Conclave and like do whatever it is those other ones were.
Yeah.
Deck someone casting only Boomerang.
Complete the quest, turn it face down. Yeah. That's right. I have no words for this, so you're not gonna get anything from me. I don't want to turn this into like a negative dance. I don't want to go on like a rant. I think you guys know how I feel about this. The only word I'll use is asinine, and we can just move.
And you're only adding a 9 because you're like PC.
Yeah.
That is our number one priority. I know for Cedric especially. So.
Absolutely.
8 max.
All right. Anything further to say about the MOCS? I have to say I was personally a little bit disappointed that Reed did not continue winning all of the Magic Online tournaments, but all people may not feel this way. I'm sure Budakov doesn't. who is himself a very respectable Magic Online grinder who has been around for approximately forever, as far as I can tell.
Like Reed, I think he like posted like a tweet or like a Facebook status or something like after he was like out of contention to win day one. He's just like, I was thinking about leaving and just going to Grand Prix Pittsburgh and trying to go to that tournament, but like I don't want to ruin the integrity of the tournament, so I'll just stay. Man, just the nicest guy. I would have just up and left.
We're done. We're done here.
Yeah, I'm just like, if I'm like out of contention, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. Like, there's a GP. I could probably he could probably use some points or whatever. Like, he's probably a favorite to like top 8 anyway because he's so good. I just F this. I'm gone. I'm just going to play in that tournament.
Judge, where is the drop on the new client? I don't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, how does this work with the new scoring system? How many points do I lose if I leave now?
I believe
How does that
we
work?
like earned $2,000 by playing the last day, so I'm not actually that impressed by his charity.
Well, it depends. I mean, I don't know how many pro points he has this season. I know he has multiple Grand Prix top 8s, so I don't know like how important those are to him or not. Like if you needed to be at that Grand Prix to like get points to become like gold or platinum or something like that. Like if he doesn't, then I guess it doesn't matter. But
Well, one thing I wanted to mention really quickly before we finish up with the MOCS is the idea of having 2 last chance qualifiers for this tournament. That struck me as super weird. Because it is such a small tournament and it's so hard to get into it, and then there's just like 2 dudes who win a PTQ like the day before essentially, and they're just like, "Hey, sup? I'm here." And it sort of
came to game.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with that because the tournament's an ad, but if it's supposed to be a highly competitive thing, then obviously I'm not okay with that. It's just silly. Like so,
well, it just
I think it was partially like them, still split on what they actually want the tournament to be, but also maybe it was just like because they hadn't, they planned their mocks like for the year of 2012, I assume, before they planned like how they were going to run this tournament. So when they probably like realized like, oh, we can't get like a clean cut to this, or we can't get like the exact point totals we want here, like adding 2 people seems like a pretty reasonable and cool thing to do, especially at a convention like PAX. So you're like, oh, this will be sweet. We can get a lot of ad space out of this. Like people will be talking about it, although people really weren't. So that was kind of not that great. But I mean, I can see how it would seem like a good idea for an exhibition style tournament. So as long as that's what you're looking for, then yeah, seems fine.
all right.
No issue.
That's fair. I just know that looking at the written coverage, it was a little weird when they did the player profile, because I had all these stats, which I thought were sweet, as a side note, and like one of the stats they had was they had like total QPs since last thing, and like Magic Online winning percentage by this person, and like most people were in X range, and then some people were in Y range, and I'd never heard of them, and I was like, where did they come from? Like, what has happened? But maybe that's my fault as a spectator. I'm willing to take the blame for that. Do you guys do you want to comment on, I guess Cube is like the only thing that was unique to this event. Do you have any specific comments on the games? I don't know how many of the games specifically you guys watched. The finals took literally less than 2 minutes, so like, it was, no.
I mean, Cube is Cube. I feel like I've seen it all now.
Seen it all. There were some like, the decks were interesting, not in a fantastic way, but just in like Budakov was 3-0 with blue-black opposition, and his deck was like very good, which is just like a weird deck to have.
I mean, blue opposition's just a pretty good deck.
Right, but it's not normally like, got these black cards, give you the business. But yeah, he gave people the business that way. So it is what it is. Let me see. Alright, I guess let's move on. Let us move on to the Star City Games Kansas City Standard Open. Obviously, Star City was in Kansas City on the weekend 2 weekends ago, and then we'll move on, once we finish that stuff, we'll move on to this past weekend. But the Kansas City Standard Open was won by Will Craddock with Junk Reanimator in what will become a trend on this show. I will put the top 16 decks in chat. Really quickly, I want you guys to comment on the Kansas City Standard Open. We're going to try and move through this fairly quickly. Cedric, you may go first. I think you were there doing coverage.
I was, and Junk Reanimator coming to that tournament. Junk Reanimator was clearly the best deck. Obviously, the deck to beat coming in as David Bauer won the week before, and we saw it win the MOCS. win Grand Prix Verona, and Craddock. It's arguable like who was the best player in the room in that tournament, but Will Craddock was certainly up there as far as like good players in the room go. So something that AJ and I kind of harped on in the booth is like Junk Reanimator is definitely the deck to beat. And if someone like smart is playing it, they'll probably win the tournament. And lo and behold, someone smart was playing it, and they won the tournament. So there's not really like a ton more to say about it. It's winning a bunch. We'll talk about its win in Orlando as well. There's like a few different directions I suppose you can go with the deck. I know that like yesterday in the Magic Online PTQ, Brian Brondewan lost in the finals with Junk Reanimator against like Blue, White, Red. So like this deck's not going anywhere. It's really hard to beat because it's like it comes at you from like different angles, even though it doesn't really seem like it is. I don't think that people have really, really dipped into like trying to figure out how to beat this deck. They're more of like resigned to the fate that like their deck can't beat it, so they're mad about it, and like they don't want to innovate, so they're just gonna play it. And the mirrors are stupid, and now they're just like angry, and like that's pretty much where we're at. So it's gonna put up a nice performance, I think, at the Invitational next weekend in Atlanta. So that's pretty much it.
All right, Glenn, do you have Kansas City Standard thoughts?
I mean, honestly, the tournament just pretty much went off. It proved Reanimator was just not getting respected. People had not yet figured out how to beat it. It was one of the most successful decks in the room by a fair mile. Will gave a good demonstration on how to play a deck that is already good and without changing much. So, there you go.
All right, Steven?
Yeah, our animator's still good.
All right.
Said quickly, right?
Yeah, I would have accepted talking about the Yeva deck, but I will also accept not talking about the Yeva deck.
The Yeva deck, like, I will say this of all of the interesting decks that I saw in Standard Opens since the last show. I'm glad that the Star City Games tournaments are tough enough fields to keep those decks out of top 8, even if we let them into top 16. But at least they're not in the top 8, because that would be really embarrassing.
Well, my favorite thing about the Yeva deck, I put it in chat by the way, for those of you who may not be watching, is that it is labeled, it came in 15th, it's labeled as blue, green, red flash, and my first thought was someone has labeled this deck wrong, but that's actually not true. It actually is blue, green, red flash, so.
That's accurate. All the flash, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't need to flash in Restoration Angel.
All
right.
Hunt Master. Wow. Wow. What a deck.
Shazam! Alright, let us move on to the Legacy Open because I want to play my kazoo sound, and this is the only opportunity for us to do that for reasons we will be talking about when we get to Orlando. So I will need from you a brief moment of silence while I play you the song of my people. Okay, the Star City Games Kansas City Legacy Open was won by Grant Wilkinson with Storm. I will put the top deck list in the chat. We will do the Legacy grab bag real quick. Cedric, grab a thing from the Legacy Open.
Thing from the Legacy Open, seeing Storm win. That was the second one. It won Indianapolis and then it won this one as well. So seeing it win back to back, and I know that Glenn, you did that interview with Grant Wilkinson. He basically said he took Adam Prozac's deck list and loved it and just won with it. And it's always a delight to see a Storm player who actually knows what they're doing instead of dicking around and casting preordains and brainstorms and tanking on what to do with those cards and busting their LEDs at the wrong moment, having no idea. Whereas like Grant not only knew what he was doing, but made the top 8 go by really fast for us doing coverage there. So that's always nice. But yeah, I think Storm is a deck, obviously, that I've talked about on this show before, and it's a deck that's really good. It's obviously difficult to play, but if you know what you're doing, you're going to have a pretty large advantage on your opponents. And Grant definitely knew what he was doing and crushed the tournament, and we saw it crush Indy as well. So I'm looking forward to see Adam playing it this weekend when we're in Atlanta and see if it's able to put up any more finishes, see if there's any other Storm Masters out there. Because every time I see this deck win, it is like not surprising me at all. So I really don't think that like there's a bad metagame that exists for Storm as long as you know how to play it. But there's just not very many people who know how to play it. So whenever it wins, I'm not shocked one bit.
All right, Glenn, Kansas City Legacy Open.
Well, we had one pseudo-unique deck in the top 8 in Nick Fit. Specifically, I list playing some cards you might recognize from the day before, such as Huntmaster of the Fells, Garrett Primal Hunter, Kessig Wolf Run. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Honestly, like it's the sort of deck where you're pretty much like as far as the engine goes. Once you've got that installed, you just decide which sweet cards you're going to cast that do stuff. So standard ones actually have tended to work previously. I know Grave Titan is like a real consistent card that people play in this deck, and obviously that's it only exists in standard and Legacy Nick Fit. Those are like the two formats that Grave Titan was ever played, which is pretty awkward. But it was definitely an interesting deck, casting a variety of cool spells. I was sad we didn't get it on camera actually much more, but yeah, I was glad that we managed to feature one of the more cool decks in the top 8.
If I ever lost that deck, I would kill myself.
Now I know why I should play Nick Fit.
Yeah, I would actually just kill myself if I lost this deck. Broodmate Dragon, huh?
Dude, it makes 2 dragons.
See, it's good because you can get it with Green Sun Zenith. See, that's why it's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't get a Grave Titan with Green Sun Zenith.
You are correct. You sure cannot. See, that's why it's good. My God.
Steven?
I'm a lands fan, I would say. It's always, it's never a favorite, but it's always my dog. And I was pleased to see lands in this top 8, not just because it's lands in the top 8, which is whatever, but because it's a top 8 which was won by Storm. And I just find it absolutely hilarious to imagine like what goes through a player who sits down with their lands deck against Storm. Like, yes, I have only lands in my deck, and your opponent's like, I don't have lands in my deck. You're dead. I would pay good money to see a tournament which is just 50% lands decks and 50% Storm decks.
Wow,
Hell, I would even voluntarily play the lands deck in that tournament.
The lands player did play against the Storm player in the quarters, and he won a game.
You won a game? Wow.
Yeah, so take that.
Is that why he was eliminated in the quarters, Cedric?
That's yes. But
so how did he? Was it like a leyline game, or did he just like wasteland the dude out? Or
I don't know. I mean, his sideboard, he has 4 Chalices of the Voids and 3 Spheres resistance. So we didn't have the game on camera, but as we get updates during the match the match we're covering, what's going on, I looked at AJ when I saw that it was tied up 1-1, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that had to be the Ultra Fluke or whatever. And then, like, literally 30 seconds later, it's like, yep, and the Ant player won. I was like, oh, there we go, probably a turn 2 then? All right, fair enough. So justice was served.
Tough but fair. Alright, well let us move on from one Star City event to another. This past weekend we saw the Star City Orlando Standard Opens, featuring not one but 2 delicious Standard Opens for consumption by the masses. Was this the first double Standard Open weekend? Have there been these previously?
First one.
First one.
Alright, so can we talk about like why this happened? Because people seem to want to know, so I'm a little bit curious. Is that public information or?
Yeah, when we said that we were changing it, we posted an article all about it. I can try and find it real quick if you'd like.
I'm easy, but is this going to be a constant thing going forward, or is this just like a? I know it's happening at least one more time, but are we going to see the return of the Legacy Open, or is it dead forever?
No, it's coming back.
Right.
Well, Adam clearly didn't read the article. The article was published regarding our opens for I don't think we published the full year, but just for our next several on the schedule, I believe for quarter 1 and 2. And in it, we noted that we're just going to be experimenting with different formats. Standard Legacy is still our default model and what most of them will be. We're trying a couple double standards. We're trying a sealed. We're trying a team sealed on Sunday.
When are you trying the double Legacy?
No, we're not trying the double Legacy.
The double barrel, sawed off.
You didn't hear my when was not good.
When?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're gonna get that. I'm not gonna lie to you. And there's a lot of motivation for various reasons to experiment. Obviously, mostly we're just seeing like what reacts where, like what people react to, because no one else has ever done anything like it. So we just have to sort of run the experiment ourselves. Ones that are successful, have every chance of being retained. It's entirely possible we'll just never ever do it again. Entirely possible that tons of things will change. Like that's the goal of the system, right? To get a bunch of people playing formats they like while being a business that gets attendance for its tournaments. And that's pretty much it. I think that this one was a little awkwardly timed, just because we don't get a great control. We don't get a great control on like comparing numbers when we have Easter also sapping a lot of players. So we'll be continuing to pay attention to it for sure. But yeah, the basic motivation is just trying new things and seeing how people like/don't like them. So if you have any feedback about it, definitely tweet it or email it to whoever on our staff you'd like, I guess.
Yeah, I
Probably
got some
just tweet it.
feedback. What's your Twitter?
Twitter?
What's your Twitter? I got some feedback for you.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Look, it was kind of hard, man. But the standard is like kind of boring right now. I think it's actually like probably a good idea, but man, standard with like just junk, just like kicking everyone's butt. Like, thank God for that Nia Blitz deck in the top 8 yesterday, because we got to see a little something different, which was kind of nice. But maybe if standard was more interesting, I think it would be awesome. But I mean, obviously it's not your guys' fault or anything. Like, I'm kind of interested to see if we do like a standard modern or something like that. Even though modern's the boogeyman.
All right.
Glenn, would you put an eggs deck on camera?
Would I put an eggs deck on camera? I would avoid it at all
costs. For
costs.
me to do commentary on? Come on.
Could you explain how you are like really enjoying it when the eggs player is going off for 15 minutes? You're like, this doesn't bother me. I am not bothered by this. This is okay.
Yes. That's all I would say. I would not commentate on anything other than just saying this is fun.
This is okay. The 5th second sunrise is okay. All these triggers are alright. That card going back on the bottom with Conjurer's Bauble, that's alright. The Ghost Quarter's going on, that's okay too.
Yeah. Ghost Quarter targeting himself, absolutely. I love it. Yep. This is good. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Well, I like the shake-up idea, honestly. Like, I'm going to be in Somerset covering the Team Sealed with Gerard Fabiano. I think that's in the first week of May, I believe it is. I'm excited for stuff like that because, I mean, Standard Legacy is like, it's nice to shake it up every now and again and see, if people are going to come out for those tournaments or, what it's like to cover a tournament like that because I've never covered a limited tournament yet, and let alone a Team Seal tournament. So I think it's going to be sweet.
All right. So before we go to what actually happened at those events and discuss the exciting magical ramifications of 2 Standard Opens, was it a great success, the double Standard Open? Are results still being tabulated? Like, what was the
I
review?
haven't been to work, so I couldn't say what anyone's saying about it. I know that our numbers obviously were relatively low for the Sunday Standard Open, but like I said, Easter's a factor, and Orlando, like the Orlando Legacy Opens have always been very small. We even ran a 7-round one once, so that was one of the motivations to use it Orlando for this particular experiment, as the Legacy community is just not that big in Florida, and Florida also doesn't draw that many people from out of state. Just a reality of the way Florida is built as a landmass.
Nice state.
It's a wonderful state.
It's awful.
It's built that way to keep people out. Can't
working.
have too many people in it, then it's not as cool.
You're right, man. We got to make sure Zach Eflin stays down there. You're right.
I mean, some people are just there,
We gotta keep
Every
him in
club
his,
has, their ranges.
We got to keep him in his cave. So it's a good thing Florida's down there. We're just making fun of someone that we know. That's all. I apologize.
All right. Let's talk about Standard Open number 1. It was won by Brandon Ross with Junk Reanimator. I will put the top 16 decks into the chat. what did you guys think about this tournament? And let's get into our Junk Reanimator section. We can talk about Junk Reanimator, what to do with it, what to do against it, and stuff like that. Cedric, you can lead us off.
Alright, so Junk Reanimator. That's a really good deck, see, because it has Imperial Rights and ways to put creatures in the graveyard, and then it reanimates them, see, so it's really good. Wow. And it's also a blast to watch, because its cards are way better than everyone else's, so wow. Great. What kind of questions do you have for me about Junk Reanimator, Adam? What do you want to know?
My first question is, did you in fact, I know you tweeted that you were going to be playing Junk Reanimator and plan not to lose a match. Did you in fact go through with those plans? Did you win all of the matches and do it on camera? Did that happen?
I was too sick to put it on a camera. Did I win a lot of the matches? Yes. Did I win all of them? Unfortunately not.
Because I believe you will win greater than 50% of your matches. Like, I have played Junk Reanimator for like a week or so I'm not like the world's foremost expert, but I have some familiarity with what the cards do, and it struck me as a like, could very easily be the best deck in Standard, is not going to win all of your matches kind of deck.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's like the best deck right now. I think that it's people think that like it's too difficult to beat, or they're just like too close-minded in the way they're trying to beat it. They're just like, oh, I'll just play this Rest in Peace, and they can't win. And like the green, black, white, they have like a bunch of answers to Rest in Peace because green can kill enchantments, and like they can also just play normal game Magic because their cards are super good. So, like, the people have to evolve and like open up their ways of trying to beat that deck, but at the same time, like people also have to, who are playing Junk Reanimator, need to evolve their deck as well. So, I mean, it's definitely a good deck. It's probably the best deck right now, but it's not like this. It's not the best deck by like such a wide margin where it should be winning 3 or 4 tournaments in a row. I think that's a little bit ridiculous, and I think that people just need to kind of go deep in the tank and innovate a little bit and figure out a good way to beat this instead of just like grabbing like Rest in Peace and Purify the Grave, let alone like 2 or 3 of them, and just be like, yeah, I'm good. All right, let's go to the tournament because that's not realistic.
All right, Glenn, do you have any broad thoughts before we dig into the nitty gritty?
No, I'm good.
All right, Steven?
Oh, wow. That's a tough act to follow. I think Junk Reanimator is an interesting deck because it fills the role of the combo deck in the format, but it does have a very wide range of threats. And so in developing your like super amazing strategy to beat it, some strategy which is better than Junk Reanimator not drawing 3 colors of lands, which I think is like a somewhat reasonable strategy.
Yeah, it happens.
Probably not the best. But in developing that strategy, you're not even gonna cut off all of their winning lines, like not even close. It's not like against Storm, you're like, well, yeah, I will like stop them from casting more than 1 spell on the turn and try not to get tendrils 10 times. It's like you remove their graveyard and then you like die to some 13-14 creature which you weren't aware was printed, but like they just play any cards they like because like yeah, I think it's tough. I think it loses to very good decks. I don't think it loses to hate or like innovating to beat it, really.
Okay. First thing I want to ask is, do you think the correct way to go about playing against Junk is to just like jam a bunch of Rest in Peace in your sideboard? Because my impression, before I throw to you fine gentlemen for your thoughts, is that the reason we're seeing a bunch of Junk Reanimator as opposed to, say, Human Reanimator or various other graveyard-centric decks is that Junk Reanimator can very reasonably just cast all their monsters and beat you to death with them while you have a Rest in Peace in play. So, like, Thragtusk goes in face, an Angel of Serenity and what have you, they can just cast elves, cast monsters, and get you, and will often board out some number of Unburial Rights and Mulches and what have you in post-board games. So, if you were looking to beat Junk Reanimator, what approach would you take, like, from the sideboard? And would you just be doing it with a bunch of, like, graveyard-centric spells? Cedric?
I think having some graveyard-centric spells is fine to keep their Unburial Rights honest, but I think that you have to actually just, like, craft a game plan that you're trying to accomplish instead of just, like, grabbing these cards and then just like trying to beat them with it. Because like just grabbing these cards that don't have like any synergy or like you don't actually have a game plan, you're just like, yeah, like I'm just gonna board Rest in Peace. Like that's not an actual game plan. You're just like, I have this idea and like this is my idea, and then like you play Rest in Peace, and like how you trying to navigate the rest of the game when you actually play Rest in Peace. You don't really know. You're just like, I'm gonna keep it on Rest in Peace, and like you play it, and then like you lose, and that's not like that's not a game plan. It's just like you had this idea, it does not work. So what are you trying to do when you do draw Rest in Peace? What are you doing if you don't draw Rest in Peace or whatever graveyard you're going to be playing, graveyard hate, excuse me, that you're going to be playing? Especially in sideboarding games, it's about crafting a game plan and executing that game plan. And I think that's what a lot of people like haven't done against these Junk Reanimator decks. They just like look at it and they just go, oh well, like Unburial Rights. So like here's how you beat Unburial Rights, and then like they draw their sideboarding cards and they lose, and they can't figure out why. It's about crafting a game plan or crafting a strategy that deck can't beat when it does execute their game plan. As I said on stream when I was with Brad this weekend and last week with AJ, like a strategy that deck is very weak against, and we saw that round one of the first Standard Open is it Staticaster Nightshade Peddler. Like it's just something they have a difficulty like getting off the table and breaking it up. And like if the Staticaster and Peddler deck is built correctly, they can just like reassemble it, as we saw Lou Laskin do in his match. Like he had the combo out, like part of it got Abrupt Decay, and then like he Tracker's Instinct and like got the rest of it or whatever. And it's just like, oh well, okay, like they don't have very much removal, and Staticaster, Peddler, greater than sign Angel Serenity. So like that's the kind of thing you need to be looking to do. It's like craft a game plan to like beat this deck instead of just trying to like good card them out, because like they're a good card deck too. So like, and they're a good card deck that's better than your good card deck because they're the best good card deck.
All right, Glenn, you have sideboarding advice?
Yeah, I think that the step to beating Junk Reanimator doesn't start with like figuring out how to tweak your sideboard for this deck that you've been playing. It starts with your deck selection. Like that's just way more key. There are decks that like you probably just shouldn't be playing right now because it's too much work or too much hassle to like actually wedge them correctly in the metagame. Obviously, you can see success with these decks, and you know if you value playing it as like a thing, then sure, go for it. But like, I would want to be playing a deck that just has a native edge against Junk Reanimator. Like I already can put pressure on them and consider the matchup fine. And then post board, I'm just going to try and improve my margin, like the margin I already have that's good. Trying to catch up in a matchup like is consistently like and historically not a great strategy. There are times when you should do it. Like it definitely has won people pro tours and tournaments or whatever. But if you know for a fact that like you're just going to be a dog in like a very popular matchup, like you can do all this work to try and reverse it or change it, or you can just play a different deck that's not a dog. It's way easier.
Ready, Steven?
Yeah, my feeling against Reanimator is that if you want to beat it, you have to try to get there before it or try to kill it through what it's doing. And so, like, I don't think Rest in Peace does that at all. I think that it is very, like, at the same level as Junk Reanimator. It's admitting that they have a game plan which you care about and like sort of answering it. I think that the answers you want are ones that like just turn their game plan off either by killing them before it happens. So like running a Naya Blitz sort of deck, which like I'm not saying you should play Naya Blitz. I don't think it's the best deck in the format, but I think that that's a better way to approach beating Junk Reanimator than looking at your Rest in Pieces in the sideboard. Or playing some deck that actually goes over the top of Junk Reanimator, which I think is possible. And I'm not sure that you can get it to be beating the format right now, but I think you can get it to be beating Junk Reanimator for sure. Junk Reanimator is pretty cold to fogs, recur some fogs, and you can like Wrath is pretty good against them after you've fogged. You can play cards, which make some of the things Junk Reanimator is doing not that exciting. So that's where I would be building to beat Junk Reanimator, and it's just a question of if it's a big enough part of the format that you actually care to do that yet.
All right, I want to touch on your Fogs comment and Glenn's sort of theorizing about decks with a native edge against Junk Reanimator. I don't know if you guys came with your cheat sheet prepared for the Turbo Fog list that lost the finals of the Moto PTQ like 2 days ago, but that obviously is a strategy which people think has some legs against Junk Reanimator. This is like 4 Fogs for whatever that Fateful Hour fog that costs 3 mana from Dark Ascension.
I think we get the gist.
Yeah, I watched some replays of Jerry running a sort of similar Sphinx's Revelation fog deck earlier today in Standard, so people are doing things that are fog based. What are your thoughts about the Turbo Fog Bant approach? Cedric, that seems like your kind of deck.
Yeah, this is right in my alley, baby. So Turbo Fog is like this interesting deck and like this strategy where I do agree that it is very good against Junk Reanimator, but there's no guarantee that Junk Reanimator is the only deck that you're going to play against. How well does Lando against Nine Blitz? Like, can Nine Blitz be too fast that they're able to fog you like 2 or 3 times and they're just like, oh, okay, like don't have the 4th fog, you win. That sucks. Like stuff like that. The thing with Turbo Fog, and like this is the history of Turbo Fog because like I did play it when I was like 17 or whatever and lost a lot of money with it. Is that like you have to be like dead on right that it's correct for the format, because if you're wrong even a little bit, you are just going to be embarrassed like over the course of the weekend. Like the deck is just a terrible choice. Like the one Turbo Fog that's out to me the most is Joe Calfill, day 1 of Worlds in Rome, where he 6-0'd with Turbo Fog, and like he just played buys all 6 rounds because like he knew that the majority of the format was going to be Jund. Jund had a very bad matchup against Turbo Fog, but the question is like, do you have like the balls to play it? And like if you do, like are you sure that you're going to be paired against Jund or like your best matchup often enough where this works out? Like Turbo Fog, let's say that it is like 95-5 against Junk Reanimator. There's nothing to say like you're not going to get paired against like some maniac playing Esper and like you just can't beat them. So like that's that strategy of like trying to dodge or like trying to make sure that you're paired against like your best matchup over and over again. Like it does have some merit and it has worked in the past. History has shown that, but again, you have to be like 100% right about that. And I don't even know I don't know what the Turbo Fog player lost to in the finals. And if you tell me Junk Reanimator, I'm literally just gonna die laughing.
I think he died to a Rev deck. I think he lost to like Blue White Red or something like that.
Okay, sure. Like, that's like a deck that he just doesn't want to play against. Like a Hollow Fountain Azorius Charm deck. Like, nice fogs. That's adorable. Like, you are not going to win. Like, that's the thing. Like, as good as that strategy can be, like, there are just other decks. There's not anything saying that, like, it's, 95% Junk Reanimator, 5% other decks, and then you can try to snipe them. Like, it's a calculated risk, and it almost worked for that player. I know that people are working on Turbo Fog decks and considering playing them for the Invitational, and, again, but even though, like, you can't be that guy who, like, gets mad when you pair it against, like, the, like, Drown Your deck and be like, why aren't you playing Junk Reanimator? What are you, stupid? Like, didn't you get the memo? How can you play that deck and you can't beat Junk Reanimator? Because he's, like, trying to do the reverse of what you're trying to do, which is dodge it, whereas you're trying to play against it, and then you're just going to be mad when he's, like, casting Dissipates and Revs and you just can't win. So, it's a huge risk, to summarize.
I believe there are some people who can, in fact, be mad. You may be proven wrong on that count, friend. Glenn, what do you think about Turbo Fog?
I mean, Cedric summed it up pretty well. If you want to make calculated metagame risks, which is what you do with every deck, then Turbo Fog is an extreme example of how you can try and get paid. Those types of risks really rarely work out on one that's like, as high variance as Turbo Fog. But obviously that guy came really close, he just needed one more. But I mean, I'm a little impressed, I won't lie. The idea of playing against such a deck, certainly for some of my own, would be like, not exciting. So, you get margin from getting to play decks that also aren't happy to play against you. But I don't like playing in tournaments when I have matchups I can't win. That's like just a personal thing. I respect it as a choice. It's totally reasonable. Like, if you think that you're not going to play that matchup or that you can afford to lose a game to it, then yeah, like, go for it. But personally, it's just troubling to me to like think, I sit down and on turn 2, I'm just like, oh, well, this was a good match. Now I'm done. I just know that I'm not going to be able to win over the course of 3 games, or that I'm like fighting against an absurd margin to get it to come back around, as Turbo Fog would have to against those Drown Yard decks. So
you have 43 lands in your deck. Like, you're going to get that Storm player eventually.
Yeah, eventually. I don't like that feeling, and it's not, that is very much like a personal thing rather than like a game theory thing.
All right, Steven, Turbo Fog.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything Glenn or Cedric said, and I think that it's pretty much dead on. I think that it's worth saying that any format where Turbo Fog is a real deck choice, Wizards just didn't design a Magic format. I think that if you're picking up decks which have that sort of margin against other archetypes and can play Magic against the rest of the field, it's just showing you that it's not an actual format you're playing. And I think this format is not quite that bad, but it needs like 2 or 3 more cards like Deathrite Shaman, which really interact with multiple different types of strategies and go in multiple different types of decks to be able to like really feel like a real format to me. Because right now there's aggro, there's control, there's combo, and in a lot of the matchups that you're seeing, it's pretty hard for people to interact with each other.
Alright, that's fair. I was considering asking about how you feel about Acidic Slime in the sideboard of Junk Reanimator. Do you guys care about that question, or you want to just move on?
What about the main deck, man?
You can put it there if you
Someone's
want.
running it main.
I think Acidic Slime's very good right now. Just a good
Well,
card.
I know that Sifka's article a couple of weeks ago claimed that card was terrible and he didn't like it, so obviously opinions diverge. Most people are like 2 or 3 in the sideboard right now. For most of the lists I've seen, some are up to like 4. If you have Somberwald Sage doing things, Acidic Slime perhaps a little bit more exciting.
It depends on your plan in the mirror, I think. Like if you think you'll be able to successfully keep them off on burial rights, then Acidic Slime's like a really great way to attack them, being able to Angel or Behemoth you. Somberwald Sage obviously is a card that trumps that as a counter. But the Acidic Slime also, it's a good strategy against a variety of other decks. Jund and Esper and even Blue White Red to some extent really just don't like those cards being cast against them, and you can back them with Caverns and Burial Rights to just make them even more obnoxious. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a card that, like, at first I didn't understand, like, why it would be very good, but, it's just, like, this super utility card, and you can blink with Restoration Angel, bring it back, play it ahead of schedule, kind of ruin someone mana base. Like, it's weird to look at, like, this 5-mana, like, land destruction spell that provides, like, what looks to be like, fairly relevant 2/2 body, be, like, pretty good, so I can see why Sifka thinks it's pretty bad at the surface. And I definitely thought the same thing as well. Is like everyone kept telling me to board it in the Junk Reanimator mirror, and I'm just like, why would I want that when they have like Mulch, Grizzly Salvage, Pilgrim, Arbor Elf, like some versions have Deathrite Shaman, like 24 lands, whatever. But you can't just like cack them off white mana, play it ahead of schedule, and just like blink it a couple of times, and they just really can't function with you. So it's weird. It's just like a nice catch-all too, because like these decks are playing Abruptic anyway. It's kind of a catch-all to Rest in Peace and maybe some other annoying cards, and Slime does a nice job of that. And you can't find it in the Grizzly Salvage though, so it's better than it looks. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it hits a lot of the cards that people board in against you, which is kind of nice in post-board games. And obviously this is very fallible, but my anecdotal experience in the Junk Reanimator mirror has been that it's kind of like a Valakut mirror, in that it's a ramp mirror, and the first guy who does something relevant almost always wins. So if you take out your like mopey Thragtusk type of guys, which almost never decide the outcome of the game, and put in Acidic Slimes, which like stop the guy from actually doing something that matters, you can prevent them from doing something that matters and do your thing that matters first, even if your draw was slightly slower. Because you can just interact with their mana, and then like you have an angel and you eat all their mana dorks and they're completely obliterated.
Yeah, that's something that like I didn't realize until like the 3rd or 4th day of testing, where people like boarding out Thragtusk against me. I was leaving Thragtusk in, and like I would draw on cast, and I'd be like, yeah, it's Thragtusk, and then like 2 turns later, I'd be like, yeah, it's not doing anything. So yeah, I mean, you probably it's like weird to say like you should be boarding out Thragtusk for Acidic Slime, but I'm pretty sure that you're right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly very willing to believe that I am wrong about things related to Magic the Gathering, but that has been my personal experience. Alright, let's talk about the second of 2 standard opens, which was won by Aaron LeBlanc, or Aaron LeBlanc, depending on your pronunciation, with Naya Blitz. I will put the deck list into chat. It is nice to have a tournament that was not won by Junk Reanimator, given that we had like 5 tournaments, and all of them but this one were won by Junk Reanimator. Here are the top 16 deck lists. What do you guys think? This tournament, Naya Blitz, etc., etc. Cedric, go.
Hallelujah. I was very happy because after Aaron knocked out the Junk Reanimator player in top 8, that meant that we got to see a new deck win the tournament. And did we ever? As my God in heaven, he just killed like every person so fast every time we watched him. One of the cool things that we got to see, the top four match, Glenn and I talked about this quite a bit last night before we parted ways. Taylor Rafalowitz versus Aaron was like one of the best matches, might be the best match I maybe ever covered, just because game one was so good.
Yeah, game one was insane.
And Taylor played really, really well. I mean, I don't think Aaron really played poorly or anything, but it was just like a blast to cover, and we got to see like two decks that we don't really get to see, get pitted against each other, and the Aristocrats and Naya Blitz. So it was kind of nice to see something new, and not just see Junk Reanimator over and over again, and just kind of like sitting there going, "Oh, well, Junk Reanimator finally lose to this deck. Oh, of course it won't, because that other deck is terrible." So it was kind of nice to see a bit of a shake up there and see how some other decks and matchups play out. And at the end of the day, we did see Naya Blitz destroy the youngster in the finals. We didn't have a 13-year-old win, unfortunately. But the Naya Blitz deck is like a pretty good deck that, after it won Quebec City, it's a little bit surprising not to see it win more. It does do well in Magic Online, but that's because, it's cheap and takes 5 seconds to play, so people just triple queue with it. But yeah, I mean, I like that deck, and I'm just glad to see Junk Reanimator not win another tournament, so that's a breath of fresh air at least.
All right. Glenn, give us more.
Yeah, I was very happy to not have to ask someone why they sleeved up Junk Reanimator for like the 6th time in a row or whatever. Yeah, so how'd that go? And yeah, also, very fast deck. I think we saw a lot of predictions come true. People have been talking about aggressive strategies being like one of the ways to get Junk Reanimator, getting under them before they can actually do anything. And that top 8 had a lot of such strategies. It had Naya Blitz. It had the Aristocrats, which is underrated as an aggressive strategy against Reanimator. It's actually very good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the green-red Firefish Striker deck, Mono Red was in there too. Like, that top 8 was really aggressive. And I think that's the shift that, people were kind of expecting to see, where they've decided, yeah, this is how I'm going to try and kill this guy. I'm just going to go for it. And that was reflected. The deck did well. I wasn't surprised to see it win the finals. It looked like a really good matchup for him. I know, looking at deck lists, both players in the finals were like, wow, Edwin, the Wolfram Bant player, just has nothing. Is sideboarding in basically no cards, just going to get rolled unless he can draw to the nuts he needs in the main deck already. And as you saw, just didn't have it. He barely did anything, just died in a horrible fire.
Yeah, 7 turns, homie.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, do you have anything further?
All I have to say about this top 8 is that it makes me want to watch it. Like, a bunch of decks playing and interacting with each other on turns 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wow. A novel concept. No, I hope that we see more of this. I think that these are decks which have decent game against Junk Reanimator, and decks which are fun to watch people play. So.
I will say that it is extremely frustrating to play Centaur Healer and still just get the shit beaten out of you by Flint Hoof 4, because it's just not enough and then you still die. And you're like, oh, well, that's nice.
I'm really sorry that your life game card that almost let you get to turn 6 when you could do something that made your opponent irrelevant didn't get you there.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that it makes me happy to play Centaur Healer, but it makes me unhappy when I play Centaur Healer. It's the only deck that it's there to be good against. And then Centaur Healer's like, oh, I tried, boss, but Flint Hoof 4 is too strong.
The Boros Elites, I can't win.
That's gotta be I'm really fond of that part of the format, at least, that you have the life games, all these sort of cards, and they almost get you there very consistently, but it's still questionable. I feel like Wizards did a pretty good job of balancing those cards in this format.
Yeah, Centaur Healer is very miserable, but Rock's Faith Mender, now there's a life gain card. That card will block all of their things.
Fortunately, that's a rare, so most people don't have access to them, right?
We're only able to draft 1 to 2 of those cards.
Yeah. They'll also still die the turn they cast it. There's also that.
Alright. Do we have anything further? Oh, you guys want to talk about Green-White Conjurer's Closet? before we
I
head out?
literally, I refuse.
No, no fear.
I actually refuse.
Someone else mentioned a like Bant Blink deck. I think it was Cuvier maybe in one of the quick questions.
Yeah. He wound up not playing it on day 2 because he made the finals, so he didn't have time to get it together before he got a bye in the first round of the Standard Open on Sunday because the finals was starting at 9:50. So didn't have time to put together his sweet Bant Blink deck, but he likes it, and hopefully we'll see him playing it somewhere else.
Does he have Conjurer's Closets? That's all that's important to me.
I don't know. You would have to ask him.
All right. Tough but fair.
I know it has clones. I know it does have clones.
Yeah, I saw a clone deck. I think clones were in the like Blasphemous X Stuffy Doll deck that Jarvis like showed me. Apparently Evil Twin is like a thing you can do against
Evil Twin is very good against
Junkrat.
Reanimator.
Yeah.
That card's hot right now. It's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get all their things. Alright, I have nothing further for this week's episode. Do you guys have anything that you would like to talk about before we go to shoutouts? No? No? Alright, let's do shoutouts and get the heck out of Dodge. Cedric, lead us off.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll be streaming today and tomorrow, and then I'll be flying to Atlanta to do invitational coverage with Tom Martell, also Adovich, Rudin Wrestler, and our very own Glenn Jones. So if you guys are hanging out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, got nothing to do, feel free to turn us on. Should be a fun tournament. I always do love going to Atlanta because they do have Chick-fil-A's and Waffle Houses. So that'll be good. I'm no longer sick anymore, thank God. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. I heard some guy's leg blew up for Louisville, and I don't want to watch that. So I'm probably going to today and regret it. And if I do, I'll post it on Twitter.
I was tricked into seeing that image on Reddit somewhere, I think. I believe I'm aware of the image you were talking about.
Also, a very happy opening day for baseball for any baseball fans out there. I kind of enjoy baseball. And Adam, prepare for disappointment. I know that you are a Blue Jays fan, and their team is supposed to have a very good year, so hopefully they do, but you will probably be disappointed.
Well, as a Blue Jays fan, I am well prepared for disappointment. So...
Yeah, I assumed as much. I assumed so.
Yeah. All right, Glenn?
It's been another week. I'm gonna be pretty busy on this one too. I'm working like the next 4 or 5 or something crazy. I have a really steep schedule, so hopefully I don't like actually go insane. But if you see me stabbing myself in the face or running into a wall over and over, you can feel free to stop me. Let me know that it's okay. This weekend's the Invitational. I'm pretty excited about it, and yeah, that's pretty much all I'm doing.
All right, Steven?
A shout out this week goes to Wizards of the Coast for their amazing April Fool's joke, which was layered in so many ways. So for those who don't know, they are running old boosters sealed. What is it exactly? You get
it's April Fool's sealed, like the beginning of all the boosters makes the words like April Fooled. You get 10 packs for your event.
Packs.
So 150 cards sealed.
Alright. So I want to congratulate them because, like, the first joke, you're not really sure, right? They announced that they will be running these tournaments, and you're not sure. Are they actually going to do that? Hard to say exactly. But it turned out they did, so that's cool.
I had thought that they would not, and then they did. So they got me.
And then the next part of the joke is that you think that it's going to be enjoyable to play. It's not. Oh, I gotcha. Dude, I had to build mono green. I had to build mono green when my opponent cast Various Mode on turn 5, 3 games in a row.
I don't believe that you had a 150 card sealed deck that had to be built mono green. Just want to throw that out there.
Had to build mono green. Do you have any idea how many bad Magic cards they have printed?
I have some idea.
I for one do.
I mean, I played one of those sealed events on stream before our show, and I was familiar with almost every single card that I received, like, in the limited portion from having played with them when they first came out, so I have some idea.
Anyway, I think it's a cool idea. My particular sealed pool, I was not a fan of, but I might do another one if there's any openings. I don't know.
All right.
My green did not have any naturalized effects. My green wasn't even good.
Tough but fair. Thanks for watching, everyone. I did, as mentioned, play a few rounds on my stream before this show in the goofy April Seals or April Fools format sealed thing, in which I went a wonderful 3-0 concede because our show is starting, but I regret nothing. So I may or may not find you fine gentlemen on the internet in the forthcoming days. We'll see how it goes. But thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.